Hi, Bay City. This is Kevin Novellino from Brooklyn Boyz Pizza in Bay City, Michigan. And this is Hey, Bay City.
Yeah. That was a good intro. I like that. You got a good, gravelly
You think?
voice. I like that.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Yeah. You celebrated 20 years in business last year, right?
Yeah, we sure did, actually. 20 amazing years in Bay City.
Insane. I mean, people talk about celebrating anniversaries, 20-year anniversary. Oh, that's so great. And it is great. But man, what a challenge.
Oh, no. This has been this was the past 3 years with the pandemic was the unplanned event, I guess, for all of us. And that created a psychology for restaurant owners, I think, more importantly.
Things have been intense.
That had to pivot constantly pivoting, whether it was takeout, whether it was distance and social distancing, things like that were incredibly difficult. But at the time that was going on, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about keeping afloat. I had this thought in my mind that, it was going to be the last man standing.
Right. Not only are there the health concerns going around, obviously, but then you have all of these crazy situations like I don't have workers and I can't get people to eat inside my restaurant. And now the cost of goods is skyrocketing through the roof, and just how to figure that out on the fly. Meanwhile, trying to keep your business afloat, man.
Interesting to the folks that work in our industry is there's very few of them that understand the business, the business economics of it. The margin in the food industry for a profit margin these days is such a low number because of the effect of, let's face it, corporate America on the mom and pop restaurant industry. If I sell 20 pizzas at $20, that's pretty good. Well, now think Domino's can, does that like 30 pizzas,
right,
or 40 pizzas. So their model is high volume at a lower price. Well, mom and pops can't do that. Mom and pop restaurants really can't do those kind of numbers and make it work for them.
Yeah, so you can't buy 10 billion pounds of pizza dough.
Right.
Did your garlic knots single-handedly save you through the pandemic?
I would like to be. That would be funny. Not the case at all, actually. Garlic knots has been an extreme for us. We introduced those, I think it was like 15 years ago, and it was a normal East Coast, New York, where I'm from.
Did you think anything of it? Did you just think it's kind of like adding mozzarella sticks to your appetizer menu?
Right. No, I didn't think much of it. I was like, well, this works in New York. And I had become kind of nichey. I'd always sold myself as, hey, we're a New York pizza place, Big Apple, get your slice of the Big Apple. I had no idea that, 10 years later that I would be at a concert in Detroit down in Pine Knob, and somebody on the hill would scream seeing me, yay, garlic knots, where's my garlic knots?
Wild.
Isn't that crazy? It happened at the Detroit Metro Airport as well. Somebody walked up, introduced themselves, and said, hey, did you bring any garlic knots? That's how people recognize me.
Garlic knots can be the gateway drug.
Yes, they are.
To the pizza. So
they are.
Brooklyn Boyz, obviously roots in New York City. Tell me about growing up in New York.
Okay, so it's interesting. Most people come to me and they go, hey, so what part of New York are you from? And they're surprised to find out I'm not from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I grew up outside New York City in the West Point area up in the Hudson Valley.
Oh, cool.
Very historic place. You have colleges, Vassar, Marist, Bard, Culinary Institute of America. I think the Military Academy at West Point. So
really,
my dad worked for IBM. He was a 27-year veteran of IBM.
Wow.
Yeah. So he stayed there and raised his 4 boys by himself, I might add. Actually,
really?
Yeah, my mom.
What a stud.
My mom was gone early in our lives. And that was, he worked IBM, raised 4 kids. And back when IBM benefits were huge. So
yeah, right.
4 boys.
Because that was relatively early on in IBM.
Oh, yeah. That dad started with IBM in 1970, which is a really interesting story because my mother's father was the vice president in charge of sales and marketing for the Waldorf Astoria in New York City.
Wow.
And yeah, my dad had graduated from Hofstra University after his stint in the Air Force. And he wanted to work in the hotel industry. And my grandfather said, absolutely not. You'll never see my grandchildren or my daughter. You'll spend your whole life in this building.
Why was he so opposed?
Because of the time away from your family. My grandfather had experienced being in the hotel industry like that. He was actually Conrad Senior Hilton golfing partner for a number of those years. So
crazy.
He went to Conrad and said, hey, my son, can you believe it? My son, they're golfing. My son wants to work in the hotel industry. And my Conrad says to my grandfather, that's crazy. Don't let him do it. He said, I bought a little stock in this small little company. Let me see if I can make a phone call and see if I can get him a job. And 1970, my dad started working for IBM in the Hudson Valley, right outside New York City.
So when for you did pizza come into the equation?
I think, it was in the probably right around 1979, 1980. 1979, I worked for my first restaurant as a dishwasher at a Howard Johnson's of all places. I don't even know if they're
country
around.
Home cooking.
There you go. And then a year later, it was summer break, and my dad had remarried, and my stepmom came home and said, you're not going to be lazy. And she dragged me to the place that we had been ordering pizza from. And she was like, Frank, put him to work. So there you go. Boom. I went into the industry, and I have been able to count on it. I haven't always been in this industry.
What else have you done?
I worked for Eastern Airlines. I was a senior flight attendant for Eastern, flew all over the Central
so
America,
you can give me
South America.
Do you still know the safety spiel at the beginning?
I don't. I really don't.
Did you have to give one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it was like a rule then.
No, you do. There's definitely some stuff about that. It was a fantastic job. I think it was the last of the glamour of working in an airline industry. It is not so glamorous anymore.
Can't imagine. You see all the viral videos of people raging on flight attendants. Like, man, I just want to bring you ginger ale and chips, man.
Yeah, just let me get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
That was my start. But the long part of this story about Brooklyn Boyz, the name Brooklyn Boyz, I met my wife in 97. I was living in Key West, Florida.
Okay.
Eastern had met its demise. It had been recommended to me to go figure out what you want to do in life. Go spend a year, I don't know, bartending or waiting tables in Key West. That was in, I guess, 92, 91. And I met my wife in 97, still in Key West.
Do you remember the moment you two met?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
She was waiting tables at a place that I was working as well down on Duval Street in Key West, Florida. And she walked in, and my wife has these crystal blue, beautiful eyes. I went over and made a fool of myself, kind of flirting. And it just kind of progressed from there. We ended up grabbing a beer, or she didn't, because she had been bitten by a spider in Key West. And they have these crazy spiders down there, and lizards, and all kinds of other living organisms that can make your life a hell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she'd been bitten and was on antibiotics and couldn't drink. So we were all at a party together, and funny enough, we just kind of hit it off. And then a week or two later, she said, "Let's go grab a beer." And that was it, man. We stayed down in Florida for a few more years in Key West, and then she finally said, "I miss my family. I need to complete school." She completed at SVSU.
Because she has roots in Michigan.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, she's from Bay City.
Okay. Wow.
Her dad owned a company here. Back then, it was called Sheer Bay Manufacturing in pelletizing and plastic extruding machines. But he, so I at first said, "What, are you crazy? We're not moving from Key West back to Michigan for you." And I had visited and found the Midland Street charming because it reminded me of Key West Duval Street. At the time, Midland Street, when I visited the first time back in 97, had 13 bars, and they were all a-bustling, let me tell you. So it took me 9 months to get here, and then I finally showed up. We actually parted, and she moved here. And
oh, really?
yeah, and I decided.
Did the long distance thing for a little bit?
Yeah, for a little bit. Didn't work for me. I was
Yeah,
like, man, this is not working.
People that make it work, man, more power to you, but that's got to be intense.
No, I couldn't. I don't even, I look at celebrities that do that and go, you hadn't seen your husband when? How long?
Yeah, you see him like 7 days out of the year.
No wonder you guys suffer from these bad relationship type of things.
Like, who are you?
So I moved here, and my first thought was when I got here, I was like, wow, what a cool town, like the infrastructure, the river. It just had this vibe. And the more I got to know it, the more I realized, well, it's not really realized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was still in this Rust Belt kind of malaise. But I got here and it was, I was a bit of a talker, always been. Anybody who knows me in Bay City,
I was going to say,
oh my God, you didn't start a conversation
got to
with him,
clear the
did you?
podcast schedule for like 4.5 hours. Like, move over Joe Rogan. We're talking for the next 10 straight hours.
Right,
baby.
right. Yeah, no, it's totally me. And I'm more, I'm happy in that place, actually.
Yeah.
Not, and I listen now. I've gotten better at this than I used to be.
Well, I think it's such a skill to be a talker. Like I am not naturally a talker, but I have so much respect for people that do, because it adds energy to the room or to a conversation. It's just interesting. My father-in-law is one. He can talk to a brick wall and make a conversation out of it. It's such a gift.
Well, it's a natural thing for me, and it's sincere. I don't.
Oh yeah.
It's I can be on a plane and on a beach. I can be anywhere and just look at somebody and find something, and that's a gift for me in the restaurant industry, because
Right.
I'm able to spend time with my customers and make connections with them.
Yep.
And it is an absolute gift. And I've traveled a bit, so I have the ability to, when I see a shirt from someplace that somebody's visited, for instance, like Key West or something, I can relate. I can identify and start the conversation, and that's important in our business, because I don't think it's they buy food when they come to me, but they're also buying me. They're also buying the connection that they've had with you. So, but when I got here, it didn't work really well. I was a New Yorker that talked too much, who came from Key West.
Right. It's a different culture,
right? But here's the thing: is I was understanding that I did talk too much, and I said, okay, I need to dial this back some. And I went to work for two guys that have a very long history here in Bay City. Was Greg Kimbrough and Willis Wells, who owned the Kingfish. Before that, it was the Lantern, and they owned the River Rock on Midland Street.
Yeah.
And I had always, since I'd moved here, had this love for Midland Street. Like, wow, this is really a cool street.
It is very cool.
And they put me to work there at the River Rock doing some nighttime stuff. And then during the day, I was waiting tables for them at the Lantern when it was called the Lantern. And I had realized one night, I stepped out and I'm watching all these people get in their cars after the bars closed. Very much after probably way too many cocktails. And get in their car and head to the Texan to eat after that, to make it through this gauntlet of blue lights of police officers between the street itself and all the bars and the restaurant out on Euclid. Like, this is crazy. I'm like, are you people crazy? And I'm looking around, I'm going, where's the late night grub? And there was none. And I had met John Klein, a famous Jumpin' Johnny's root beer. And I tracked his dad down. Said, hey, you've got this spot I'm kind of interested in. And it's a long story to get to the name of how we named Brooklyn Boyz, because believe it or not, it has nothing to do with my family being from Brooklyn.
Tell me about that.
Jen and I, living in Key West, used to go and hang out at a place called Brooklyn Boyz Bar and Grill. And the proprietor and owner of the place had a few too many bad habits, and it went out of business not long after we left. And I always thought the name was really cool. Man, Brooklyn Boyz got kind of a ring to it. It's kind of cool. I'm from New York. I'm Italian. Family's from Brooklyn. I make pizza. I'm going to open a pizza shop.
It checks all the boxes.
Yeah, it sure did. So yeah, I did this thing. I went and sold. Up until then, I had been a aspiring, believe it or not, a live music sound engineer with all this equipment.
Cool.
I had no place to use because the market here had been cornered already.
Yeah,
music had been a big part of Bay City, so there was people making money off of it.
Right, and they grew up here, they lived here, they'd been working here for a while. Hard to get in there and say, hey, I'm the new guy from Brooklyn, hire me. Yeah,
hire me, and that wasn't happening. So I sold it all and bought a smidge of equipment from this guy, and a different guy, this guy, and everything. And my wife borrowed a little money from the family, and boom. 20 years ago, Brooklyn Boyz, Bay City, Michigan.
Wow.
And I'll never forget those first few months being working like 110 to 111 hours a week. I brought a pillow to work and slept underneath a table just to keep it,
Amen.
you know, to do that. And that first year we were in business, nobody warned me about 4th of July in Bay City on Midland Street.
No.
And so the weekends were slightly busy because of the bar business. There's a weekend business here in Bay City. And that 4th of July weekend, it was gangbusters. I didn't realize. And the police came in and said, hey, we need to talk to the manager. Who's the manager here? And I stepped forward and like, hey, it's me. And said, did I do something wrong? And they go, well, what are we going to do about this? Do about what? Because, well, have you looked outside? And I'm looking outside, and lo and behold, there's a line, literally 50 people deep, out the door. There's 30 people sitting on the curb with a slice of on a paper plate and a styrofoam cup full of pop. The classic New York thing,
Because you started off as a pizza by the slice.
By the slice joint. Yeah, totally. And I looked out there and I said, well, how is this a problem? And then he literally walked me around the corner of that building, and there's the parking lot, and kids sitting in their car eating pizza. There was kids everywhere eating pizza slices. And that was the beginning. I never looked back. That lasted for like 10 years, the slice business. And then, the industry changed, bar industry, the habits of people going out late night and doing things kind of changed. So it changed for us. But in the interim of all that going on, I had developed a relationship with East Coasters that were starting to show up to eat a very definitive style of pizza that was very New York.
Yeah, tell me about that, because you hear New York style pizza, people that don't know may not necessarily understand what separates that.
It's definitely a super thin crust through the middle. It's big, beautiful pretzel kind of baguette edge around the outside. It's cooked in a deck oven, not a conveyor oven. A lot of the ingredients are fresh. That's us. We're definitely fresh.
For me, the thin crust is it. Like it's a great balance between, you got the crust, but then you also have the toppings. I am not personally a fan of, you end up with like 6-inch thick crust of pizza. Like, that's not my jam. I wanted something thin and crispy.
Bread is definitely what a Midwestern pizza is. Lots of bread. The Detroit style, which is blown up over the past 10 years. Definitely it too. But we had a lot of people coming in that were transplants, doctors that worked at McLaren, attorneys that had moved to the area, a lot of professionals. And people started showing up for the food. And we got an opportunity to move into a place right on Midland Street, because we started next to what's now Mode's Tavern.
Oh.
Years ago, it was called Steamers. And we moved in between, I believe it was the Midland Street Pub and the River Rock at the time. And that just, blew up the business even more. And during that time, I became a city commissioner, lo and behold. I had some intention to try to bring some big East Coast metropolitan things. And I thought, the first thing I did was a guy who's no longer a city planner with us, who was an excellent city planner as well, was Jim Bedell, and I hatched a plan to create street side decks to increase more of the amenities that you would find in places like Ann Arbor or Detroit or New York or Miami, places like that. And so we got that through the city commission, and boom, it took off even more. And now I'm feeding families. Like, it's not just late night people now. There are whole families coming in from Midland and all over to sit down and eat pizza.
Right.
So, I knocked a few walls down inside the place and added tables and chairs and hired waitresses. And it grew some more, and it just kept growing, It grew to the point of where we are now, to where we have, full liquor, full alcohol, and the pizza and entrees and appetizers.
And you, I mean, it wasn't that recently, but you recently renovated the inside, right?
Right, yeah, because of the pandemic. That was yet another pivot. Here we are in the midst of a pandemic, being told by the powers that be that you can't seat this many people in here any longer. So we did away with the booths, and we added banquette seating. We were using a restaurant consultant in the area, Chef Joseph Stetson, who had a French restaurant where the Rudy's Red Lion is downtown now, or the defunct Rudy's Red Lion anyway. And his recommendation to us was, you need to create this more of this gastropub vibe. That's what, what things are changing to. Because till then we were really just a formal dining room.
Right.
Which served people well, but he recognized that things were changing. So we did those things and we renovated, and it's been received really, really well. I mean, we're seeing a lot more younger people come in than we've ever had before.
Yeah, it's beautiful in there.
No, we love it. And that's me. That's the other part of me, that creative in me. That Bay City has allowed me to be, I mean, that's the cool thing about Bay City is it's, especially right now and over the past 20 years, it's been an open canvas. You come in, paint what you're going to paint, man. And the people have received it well. My family and I have been blessed, with an area that has supported us now for coming up on 21 years.
I'll never forget. This reminds me of an interview I did with Jordan over at Electric Kitsch, because I was talking to him and I was like, well, do you ever get people saying like, why don't you move to Detroit? Or like, you'd kill it in Detroit, like a place like this in Detroit. And what he said to me was really profound, because he said, but I live here. And if I go to Detroit, now I'm competing with 30,000 other record stores that have been there for decades, that have a following. I'm paying $1 billion in rent every single month. It's a different atmosphere, where Bay City, there's opportunity because you get to try this building or build this thing out or throw an oyster bar on the street. You're able to do that. Whereas you go to a very densely populated area like Detroit, you're not going to be able to wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to do an oyster bar.
Oh yeah, there's definitely that little fish in a big fishbowl thing going on in those kind of places.
How'd your oyster bar go?
It went okay for a first year.
Yeah.
I always try to go outside of what everybody else is doing, first of all, because what has worked for me 20 years later is being niche-y.
Yep.
Niche has worked really, really well for us.
Riches are in the niches, baby.
Man, it's amazing. And do what I do. And that is, Jordy is a great guy. I love their concept. And they recently became big enough to where they had to move to a bigger spot. But they stayed in the city. They stayed within the Bay City limits, So that's awesome. And their new space is well received by their populace. And I have a lot of the same thing with people coming to me all the time. You're getting no respect here in Bay City. You should move to Ann Arbor. This is where it is. And then I go visit Ann Arbor and I go, whoa, this is competing at a whole different level. Like this is a culinary competition here. It's not just feeding people. Yep. You have to stay above the thing, which I've tried to do as well. The only time we've ever seen a slight slowdown in business, outside of the pandemic, was when I rested on my laurels a little bit and said, well, I've made it. I've reached the top now.
I'm the pizza guy.
I'm the pizza guy. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 other pizza places opened and 10 other restaurants. And I went, uh-oh.
Yeah, that's part of the beauty of having, if you want to call it that, competition, because you do get to the point where you kind of, and I'm speaking exactly as a fellow small business owner, where you kind of have your thing and things are going really well. And you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And then there's also a little bit of fatigue, because you're like, okay, I've been doing my thing for 10 years and it's working pretty good. And now I've got 4 kids and now like all of this other stuff. And then all of a sudden you got a killer new place in town. And it kind of resharpens that focus a little bit and say, okay, I can't afford to do that anymore.
You get this, for a second, you get this fear. You're like, Like I had always in the back of my mind for the 20 years going, man, I hope nobody else from New York moves here that knows how to make pizza. It's like, and that didn't happen, but a lot of other foodieries, eateries have opened here since then. And it has put me in a place of that now I'm not so much competing with them. I'm like, wait a second. I need to be better for me. I need to see what I'm capable of here. I'm competing with myself now, and that's what I'm doing now. We reinvented and launched a brand new menu. We're creating things that that are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people doing that now in Bay City, and that's what's making Bay City really cool. Is all of a sudden you have all these people that are like reaching for the stars, and it feels kind of cool. I think that Bay City is really attractive in that sense to the tourism that is coming here lately.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you how many people we talk to at the restaurant who say, wow, we had no idea Bay City was here,
Mm-hmm.
and they're from Ann Arbor and Detroit and Ohio. I recently, my wife, and who's just a rocket scientist, she's so smart, and she took one of the apartments we have above our place, because we are in that old 3-story building on Midland Street, and turned it into an Airbnb.
Cool.
And it stays booked, man. And it is people from all over. And we asked them, so what brings you to Bay City? Some friends told us about it. Like, wow, that is cool. So for me, like 20 years of being here, I always said years ago, I always saw Bay City with rose-colored glasses. I was like, oh, this is, unfortunately, I always felt like too, the first 10 years it was the city of, perpetual potential. Like it wasn't happening fast enough for me. For me, that's
that East Coast.
Well, it's also a part of
energy.
Being an adult with attention deficit disorder too. I mean, like, let's face it.
Amen, brother. I feel you there.
God, I'm like, please, can this happen any faster? Can we? We're building all these beautiful condos and housing on the riverfront. Let's fill them up as soon as fast, as possible.
Yeah.
Let's get the. Come on, Shaheens. Let's move this along.
Let's go.
We need these folks to move here, and that's important, because we are still in a place where, people are leaving. So we need to replace those people. We need to bring them here and to realize the potential that's here. I mean, I look at some of the people that are doing incredible things here. Avram Golden.
Yep.
His 3rd Street project is a phenomenal undertaking. And, I pray for him. Please,
Jefferson Project, another big Avram project there.
And then let's not forget, in a residential level, Wayne Hoffman and what he did for the Birdman's house over there in Van Buren.
Yep.
I mean, how many people know the story of that house? It's like, holy smokes,
right?
It's incredible. So, I'm happy to stay here. Would I like to expand? I've seen a lot of my competition expand into other local markets, Midland, Saginaw, things like that. I'm a chef. I'm an entrepreneur, yeah, but I'm also a chef. I am enjoying the kitchen way more than I used to.
Cool.
Because I've, like Joe said to me, Joseph Stetson, who I spoke about earlier, Kevin, you have to think like a chef, Kevin. To think like a chef. That's how you're going to exceed in this business. So I've been doing that a lot more, and I've hired the right people. I'm really excited right now about my chef that I'm working with right now.
What's the name?
David Laeb, who is the traveling executive chef for the Great Lakes Loons.
Oh, cool.
He's only a temporary. He's only, no pun intended, he's only pinch hitting for me right now until April 1st when he has to go back to the Loons.
Okay.
But he is an incredible chef, and he picked us, and he's brought, some inspiration for me too. And he's enjoying himself as well. Cool. He's like, hey, Kev, he says, this is, a lot different than, cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the road for 45, baseball players. He says, I'm enjoying this as well. And we're doing some pretty cool things. And he's a good guy too. Moved to Bay City. He's not from here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not from here. Moved to Bay City. Like me, met his wife in Vermont, cooking for a very high-end restaurant up in Vermont, in Manchester, Vermont, and moved here to be with his wife. So there's a bunch of us, apparently, and I keep meeting them, that keep meeting these women from Bay City that whether they bite you like the vampire or get their hooks in you, they drag you back to Bay City. So it's kind of cool. But Bay City, yeah, I always get baited, move here, people come to me from other places. Yeah. Hey, I own this building. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, I'm always interested, but I'm only one guy.
You mentioned that you're liking the kitchen more than you did originally, and that what popped in my head was one of Anthony Bourdain's books. He talks about later on, after he wrote Kitchen Confidential and had a huge career, and he wrote a book of short stories, kind of looking back on his career. And he talks about a situation where he goes back to his old restaurant in New York.
Yeah.
And he just for fun goes into the kitchen and just sees if he can still hang. And he was very honest. He was just like, I can't. I hate the kitchen. I'm tired. I'm too old for this. I lasted like 20 minutes and I was done. Every bone in my body feels like it's broken for days afterwards. And so it sounds like he went the opposite way, where he started off with this love of food and then transitioned into something else. But it sounds like maybe you're the opposite way. You started off kind of really being an entrepreneur.
Oh, absolutely.
And now you're loving the kitchen more. Why would you say that you're loving the kitchen more?
I think it's because of just the art of it, the culinary art of it. Yeah. I'm learning more things. Let's face it, the internet has created this plethora of information for me to research and look at and go, oh, I've been making a mother sauce and I didn't even know it all these years. I'm like,
look at me knowing what I'm doing.
Right. So now I'm looking at those kind of things a little differently. I'm looking what other people are doing. That's another thing is, the internet has given us the ability to look what restaurants outside our area are doing. But it's really, really important to know your market too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can, lately I see a lot of the Vietnamese, the pho and the noodle dishes and things like that, which are really, really big deal, and I've not done that because if there's too many of us doing it, then, wow, okay, so that's been beat to death, kind of like avocado toast. I feel like that year, we had those few years where avocado toast was the rage.
Yeah, Uptown Grill, they have a fantastic avocado toast for avocado toast, but it's not my thing.
Yeah, no, it's so, like you asked, I think that it's like my second wind, if you will. It's also part of being, like I said, an adult with ADD. It's what's the next new thing? What's the next new thing?
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about ADD, blessing or a curse? Because as a fellow,
it's both
adult. Yeah, talk to me about that.
It's both. It has its ups and downs. It's not like a manic thing, like a bipolar or depressive, but
you just feel like
you're always
all your energy is going into one direction.
It's channeled that way, yeah. And you run with that, and you can get a lot accomplished with laser focus, and you get it, and then it becomes successful, and you get these accolades, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's boring.
Yep.
It's like the dopamine rush has just, has subsided, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, my for a long time, my wife made fun of me because I'd constantly be obsessive about different hobbies. And so I'd be like, home brewing, and like, I'm going to get 7 gallons of tanks and stuff. And then within weeks, it's gone because the thrill is gone, and you need something else that gives you that kind of stimulation.
Yeah, my wife is the same way. Yeah. She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have 3 children and me.
Yeah.
You already work 12 hours a day. What is this you're going to do?
Do you feel like you're managing it better or no?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think the number one thing you can do, believe it or not, is educate yourself about what it looks like, how it acts in you, to recognize it. So I recognize it a lot of times now. I go, oh, that's what that is. Oh, okay.
Put away the debit card, Kevin.
Yeah. Or even in the restaurant business, because, my justification in the restaurant industry is that I'm not, blowing money on, things that are outside the restaurant industry.
Oh, yeah.
I look for what's the new cutting edge thing I can do. I will give you a perfect example. Oh, this is a wonderful time to ask this question.
Yes.
Last night, in my lack of sleep, because I was thinking about this and a number of other things, I got, you make the mistake of getting on the internet.
Yep.
That's a rabbit hole you don't want to do at 2 a.m. And I found a place that is selling donut making machines. I was like, oh, I could sell donuts at the pizza shop.
Brooklyn Boyz Pizza and Donuts, baby.
Too, and that's the kind of stuff. And it seems like such a great idea.
Yep.
And it tugs at your the dopamine just all of a sudden goes whoop. And it tugs at you, and you have to be able to go, okay, wait a second.
Yep.
hold 1 second. What is this? Is this really a thing?
Wait, what I find too is another kind of layer to the trickiness of it is when you get so focused on that idea, there's part of your brain that says, this might be a terrible idea, but you have the energy, you have the work ethic, you have the focus to be able to make it into a good idea. If you just hit it hard, you can force this donut and pizza idea down throats of everybody and they're going to love it. And so you get caught in this loop of, I'm obsessed with this idea and I can make it work.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally, that's interesting you say that because I've always felt like, and I've always said, to my wife, I'm like, man, if I come up with an idea and push it really hard, I know I can get it through.
Yep.
And I don't think that's like reality. Not all things that you focus on that hard and want to force through with your will and willpower. I'm going to make this work,
Yeah, I believe in this, and so I can make everybody else believe in it too. And sometimes that's absolutely possible. Sometimes you can fight that battle and win that battle. But I think, at least in my experience, as you get older and you get more tired, and that mixed with experience, you can be more aware of feeling that way and say, how about I just sit on this for a couple weeks? And if I feel this way in 6 weeks or whatever, then I'll revisit it. But got to redirect the scarcity of energy to something that I know will work right now.
Right. I do that. And the way I do that too, so I don't lose that information. Most people say in treatment for ADD, they always say, journal, write things down so you don't forget them.
I can never keep track of the journal.
Neither can I. So when I get a great idea and I hash it around with a few people that aren't my wife, they, oh, this is a great idea. So what I do, I run to Facebook and make a page and say, if I come back to this and it's really a good idea.
Smart.
So I have like 45 Facebook pages.
I was just going to ask you, how many pages do you have, Kevin?
It's like 45 of them. And it's stupid because I look at them and I get messages. This page has been inactive for 6 years now. Are you still interested in keeping it?
What's been your craziest idea?
I think I have too many crazy ideas is to narrow it down. I really do. Bourdain, by the way, was a huge inspiration for me and an absolute tragedy that what happened. But it is, I'm not unlike him. I'm starting to realize that my time is waning as well. I'm 58. A lot of the folks that I've been feeding for 20 years are surprised to find that. But, I fed a bunch of kids that were in their 20s and it's 20 years later. They're in their 40s now and they're like, wow, we didn't know you were that old. It never really came across that you were that old. And I was like, I was having fun with you guys, I literally was. And we have great stories. Right now, the people that are investing money are your bohemes, a woman who opens a coffee shop that stays open late at night, a kid who...
Yeah, Lolo Bees. Man.
Right? Yeah, what a cool vibe.
Yep.
Awesome place.
Anthony and his indoor skate park. I'm told that you can't tell by the storefront that there's a recording studio there that's getting ready to open inside. Oh, really?
Right next door to the skate park.
Oh, yeah. I did not know that.
So you have these businesses starting to come, and I look at our neighborhood. It's interesting. We have something in our neighborhood that is so important for community development. It should be the center point, I feel like sometimes, and that's the hardware store.
Yep.
We have a hardware store in our community, in our neighborhood. We have a library. We have the city's largest park. We have boat launches on Midland Street. We have restaurants. We have a lot of professional businesses, lots of professional businesses.
And such a potential for mixed use too as well. I mean, you need the right developer to come in and do some of that work. And there's, of course, codes involved that can present obstacles there. But man, you get people living in those uppers and you have this diversity of businesses now. It's super, super cool.
We've invested money in our building absolutely above us. Like I spoke on earlier with the Airbnb, we have 2 long-term rentals as well. We spent a ton of money renovating them, bringing them up to a standard that we would live in them, my wife and I.
I love it.
And so what happens is we fetch a little bit above the market value for that neighborhood, but everybody else is now following suit because things are starting to buzz down there. Hey, we can do these things. We just have to do them through the right procedures and use the codes. It is a neighbor. The other wonderful thing is we've gotten a new new president of our management board down there with Matt Nemode, who I nominated to the position because I saw him as a team leader and a team builder, and that's what's happening on Midland Street on the management board now. Things are moving faster. Not to duplicate what Avram did on the 3rd Street Bridge, but we're creating a star bridge of our own. I'm not sure it's a lighting project with archways instead of hanging lights. It's going to be archways up and down the street that would, from both sides of the river, you'll be able to see the 3rd Street Bridge, and the 3rd Street Bridge, you'll be able to see our bridge. So it is a thing that will be seen this summer, and it's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. But like I said, I'm into community development. So one of the things I keep recommending is, hey, you know what we need down here? A small grocer bodega.
Oh.
Do you know that there are near 5,000 people who live within walking distance of Midland Street? 5,000
Really?
people. There is a huge neighborhoods that surround our area. Now, some of them are low rent areas, but there's a lot of middle class folks living that are starting to show up at our restaurants and at the hardware store and use the park and things like that. And that's available to them without getting in the car. And I think that would be an addition that would really solidify. Maybe, we have an art gallery and a bookstore.
Right. I was just going to bring up both of those.
We're behaving like a cool, hip little district all of a sudden.
Yeah, the diversity of businesses that are going into Midland Street right now is one of the most exciting things for me, because now you can have 15 bars back to back to back, and that's cool, and it draws in people that want that. But as you see culture shift, as you see business districts shift, having an art gallery, a bookstore, a bodega where people can go buy quality food, the restaurants, all of these other things, it's I think it's a signal that says we don't just have one kind of business here, we have a culture. And we have a community, and we have resources here that make this place interesting and individual. It's super intriguing to me.
Yeah, and another thing with that management board is we have something that has really become really, really interesting. That for the first time in a long time, I think, and I'm not even really sure, but we have a lot of women business owners that sit on that board now.
Very cool.
And let me tell you what, you put several women on a board together, and they will accomplish things.
They will get it done. I just had an interview with Jennifer Davis of Chocolate Butter, and she said something very similar. She was like, I was not aware of the amount of women in entrepreneurship here in Bay City until she became an entrepreneur herself, and she was just like, they are my absolute heroes. They run 3 different businesses. They've got 5 kids. They get it all done at a very high level, just crushing it.
Well, the folks from the River Rock, the new River Rock, they're from Saginaw, and they were already in the insurance industry. Well, she moved her offices here to the Midland Street district and owns the property that the River Rock is in. So she's, hedging her money that this is the next big thing.
Very cool.
A lot of people like it. A lot of visitors come and dig what we're doing down there. We're a little bit behind the curve. I think, we obviously have seen some of that telemetry of 20 years of organizing here on the east side of the river has helped. But the other thing that I've noticed that's fantastic, I love that they're showing up, is you have people like Mike Bajgalupo and Alan Lefebvre showing up at our board meetings going, hey, we think you're doing this the right way now. We like what we see. We like to kind of make sure that we're maybe collaborating so that you
keep us in the loop.
Keep bringing that that energy so that we become a city of one, because Bay City is really Bay City. And I give you Chris LaRock and his new Coven. He's got white tablecloths on the
playing the piano there.
And you got Matt Nemode at Modes he's literally traveling to Nashville to meet with the Nashville people to bring them here. That's who's doing those things?
Mm-hmm. Marco Zarzak, H2Os, right on the river.
Wow. I'm really excited about that,
Yep.
you know. And now there's a new, Bay City and the rumors, by the way. That's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor control here is, oh my Lord. That we're hearing buzz that there might be an offer on the table for the Lumber Baron, the big brew thing house. So that would be huge.
Yeah.
Mark opens, they open.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's a power force. There's some reason to be there, and there's been a reason for me for 21 years so far.
Yep.
There are times when I have been, damn it, wish we had a parking lot.
Yep. Yep.
That's my wife most of all. But there's some truth to that. So, but it's definitely changing. I'm glad I've stayed here 21 years.
Yes.
There could be there's a lot worse. Just to give you an idea, because on occasion I like to carouse the realty sites in other communities that friends report back to me. Oh, I live in Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You should move here, Kevin. And I'm like, really? And I'll take a look at the home costs and go, why would I leave here?
Yeah.
Couldn't
make it. Yeah.
I get a shack for what I have a beautiful house here for.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I have 3 kids and a wife. And most of all, Bay City's been good to me. Why would I, it's taking care of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's helped me raise my kids. And my kids go to a Lutheran school, man. There's like a lot of Lutheran schools here in our area. There's a lot of good people here. If you want to take the easy route and look for the bad, then, you can always find it. It's easy. Work a little harder and you'll find a lot of really cool people in Bay City. A lot of fun people, a lot of arty people. I like it here. It was a long answer to that question.
Well, I like you being here. I'm so glad that you've been here for 21 years and looking forward to another 21 years of Brooklyn Boyz. If people are looking or listening to this episode and they want to check you out, where can people go to look for you?
Well, they should go to, I'm going to give you the address because that's always best.
Yeah,
it's 507 East Midland Street, Bay City, Michigan. And you can always reach us on our very easy to remember Brooklyn Boyz with a Z, not an S.com. Make reservations to order, to take a gander at our website and what's on the menu. And then it'll also lead you to our social media, things like Instagram and Facebook and, oh my Lord, now TikTok. Man, I'm a little bit wore out on some of that stuff, trying to keep up with that,
There's so many options.
And it's funny because we talked about that right before the interview started. I met you 7 years ago when this all was just becoming, the internet and storytelling was just becoming a thing.
Right.
So should have hired you back then.
Well, even though you didn't hire me back then, it's been an absolute pleasure.
And a pleasure
Kevin, talking with you today. And man, I need some of those garlic knots, so I'll stop by soon.
Absolutely. We open at 3 today. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.